Welcome to another episode of the Understanding Ultra podcast, the podcast that likes to ask the question, why? We aim to give you the insights from the top ultra runners and trail runners from around the world, the people that work in the trail industry, and everybody else. We dive into training, nutrition, mindset, and racing strategies to help you to become the best ultra runner that you can be. So without further ado, let's speak to our next guest. Okay, so welcome to tonight's podcast, and tonight's podcast is with Dave Stuart. Dave Stuart, welcome to Understanding Ultra.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. It's good to catch up with you and talk to you without being either the pressure of running around the track in Auburn or the pressure of you trying to get to a flight that left 10 minutes before you got there.
I did get it though, so all right.
You got home safe and sound, so that's the main thing. Yeah, brilliant. So really, I haven't really had a chance to speak about my time at Western States yet because for certain reasons the wife doesn't like to talk about me being on holiday. But I was out there to work on the live stream on YouTube, so the races live stream that went on for the whole 30 hours. So that was the reason why I was out there, and sort of around the second day, so we're going into sort of 27, 28, 29, 30 hours. I was a bit delirious running around on the track in the 36-degree heat that was there, sweating, could barely see out of my eyes. And I look up and I see the familiar sight of a Bad Boy running t-shirt coming down the track towards me, which was you. The cult of the Bad Boy running has spread worldwide now. So it was interesting to see you, and I was surprised. I didn't realise anyone from the group was out there doing the race. So I filmed you all the way in, and I even made a point of making sure that the camera was on you while you did your press ups.
Yeah.
Did they actually end up in the live stream edit, or did they cut away from it? Do you know?
I did. I've watched it back. Yeah, no, I did make an appearance. They've got like the twin angles, so for the one from above and the one from head on. So yeah, definitely made it. Got a few comments from Billy and the commentators on it. Got a shout out. So that's good.
Glad you got the recognition for it, because I know there was obviously talk in the group if it wasn't recorded on camera, then it didn't happen, etc.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, global documentation. So
it did happen.
That's good.
So really, what I wanted to do was get you on the podcast to give an Englishman's perspective of Western States. So I found it to be a race like no other that I've ever attended, like either raced or volunteered at, just like for the atmosphere and everything and the feel of everything. But that's the kind of thing that to me it seemed a very American race. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Yeah. They're all different. It seemed very, very specific to America, the feel of it and everything. But so I want to get your perspective. But I think firstly, would you kind of give us your sort of background, an introduction to you, who you are, how long you've been running, how you got into running, and then how you ended up being in Auburn for Western States?
Yeah, so I'd say, in terms of background with running, my parents used to be at a local running club doing cross country and that kind of stuff. So kind of as a kid, I was around running and all that kind of stuff, but never really really got into running. And then when I was at uni, I started running, got up to sort of half marathons and things like that. And then sort of stopped as with the world of work beginning, and then got into triathlon sort of about 12, 13 years ago, and started working my way up through that, kind of working up towards sort of half Ironman, that kind of stuff. And then I was out running one day, and then I saw some signs up for Centurion Running, and I was like, oh, what's that about? And they had a marathon, 50-mile race and 100-mile race, which was going pretty much past my front door. And I sort of thought a trail marathon was pretty mad as it was, and didn't realise that people ran 50-mile and 100-mile races. So I kind of started thinking about that and looking into it. And I got more into my long distance triathlon, but I was pretty rubbish at swimming and pretty rubbish at cycling, and I was quite good at running. So I was like, well, maybe I'll give the 50 mile a go one year, and qualified for it for my marathon, and then ran, so 2014 ran the North Downs Way 50. The autumn of 2014, I DNF'd the swim of Ironman 10B, so that was the end of my triathlon. I'd finished an Ironman that year and that kind of stuff, so I'd kind of done my triathlon phase, and then sort of started getting into running, and and then having done the 50 okay, I was like, I would like to do 100, and so did the Thames Path in 2015, and having finished that, there was like, you could get UTMB points and you could get qualified for the Western States ballot, and I was like, put my name in for that and see what happens, and didn't get in. Next year came back, did the Centurion Grand Slam with the 400s, and then so since then I've sort of been doing 1 or 200s a year, qualifying for the Western States, and 6th time, well 7 if you include the year off with COVID, then I got in. So it's kind of it's taken a long time. So so I kind of think I'm up to 1600s or longer races now. So since 2015, kind of started off with sort of about 23ish hours, got down to about 1940 for the Thames Path. So kind of reasonable pace, but not at the front, not at the back, but maybe nearer the front than the back now. So
closer to the front than the back, definitely, for sure.
Yeah,
that's some good 100 experience there, definitely.
Yeah.
I think it's nice that you'd come into ultra running through the back door of triathlon, same as I did as well. My sort of running career, even though I kind of ran off and on short distances, and then only ever done like a half marathon, thinking, I'll never have time to train for a marathon. And then a friend was like, "Do you want to do a sprint triathlon?" Did a sprint, did an Olympic one. He's like, "I'm going to do a full Ironman, or the Ironman distance anyway." So I did Outlaw, the one at Nottingham, did that a couple of years on the trot. Didn't get any quicker from one year to the next, and thought, spent a lot of hours training for this for like a 10-minute improvement over a year, and thought, with the kids getting a bit older as well, I was thinking, you're a parent, you think, I probably ought to invest the little time I have got. Probably should pick the thing that I'm either good at or I like the most. Even though I loved cycling, and I did a lot of cycling for work and stuff, I thought the best bang for buck is running, because you can get your exercise and get your training, get your endorphins in the least amount of time compared to and cycling. So we have that same pedigree, and the love for going long, which I think attracts you to an Ironman anyway, doesn't it? And then going long in ultras. So what attracted you to Western States then? Why was it something for you specifically that you thought it was a goal race to do, or a goal on your bucket list?
I think it's just having read various books. It comes at having sort of I'm sure there's a list that most people starting to ultra running, so reading like Dean Karnaz's book, and then Eat to Run by Scott Jurek, and books like that. And it's kind of it's got one of the sort of central books it's one of the central races in terms of the history of running in the US. So you kind of, and a lot of it, got a lot of other people. I suspect probably because it's got the ballot, it makes it more I don't know, it's more exclusive and more people wanting to do it. Whereas I suspect if it was just like, well, you just pay your entry fee and turn up, then maybe it might not have quite the same appeal. But it's just having read about it and wanting to do it, and it's kind of started. It's also one of those things you start doing, you want to finish it. So put my name in the ballot, started drawing in it. It's like each year you get a better chance, and it's kind of like, right, I want to get in now. I just keep going, and it's like, oh, okay, now it's 7 years. Is that okay?
Eventually, comes up for it. I know. It's one of those races, especially with the fact that they only allow a set amount of people to do the race, don't they? It's like 400 and something. Is it 400 and something?
It's normally 369, I think, but they or 380 something. But there was 385 this year because of COVID catch and things.
That's it. Yeah, they average it out, and it's got the highest rate of volunteers to competitors and everything. I did research this because I wrote an article about the race, and I did research that.
Yeah, I think something like 1,500 volunteers.
That's it. Yeah, 15 or 1,600.
Yeah,
it's like three or four. Is it three? Yeah, it must be like three something people to every runner. So, and that's kind of obvious when you see the amount of people there and the amount of people helping out and volunteering. You realise that it's such a massive, big deal.
Yeah. Oh,
okay, sorry, so something appeared on my screen, then I just had to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we've discussed how you got into the race then. So because that's seems to be about the right set amount of time, doesn't it? It seems to be about, people say it's about 5 years or something of trying to get in, unless you're obviously one of these like elites that can win another race and get a golden ticket. Did you ever feel like giving up on it, or was it just something that you knew, like you were saying, you were in it, once you're in it, and you just wait for your number to come up?
Yeah, and it's just one of those things. You've got to finish a qualifier each year, and I was kind of doing that anyway, because really enjoy the Centurion races, and I've done the Thames Path 6 times now, and that's quite a nice early season race, and sort of have that in there in the mix with some other races that I've been doing. So, and then also because I've been collected UTMB points as well, so it's kind of just sort of, it's a race I do anyway, but it's kind of having that as a bonus off the back of it. So it's been quite. It's not been particularly difficult to get. It's not like I'm scratching around trying to find any race in October to get in the ballot. So kind of done either Thames Path in May or South Downs Way 100 in June, and kind of got it each time. So it's been quite straightforward.
Almost a done deal.
But yeah, it's also staying healthy for 6-7 years on the bounce there as well, which isn't always a given. So.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah, I often think about that. Like if your number comes up and then you happen to be injured that year, and I'm thinking about. So as far as preparing for Western States, what did your training look like for it specifically?
Yeah, I don't think I'm quite lucky in that I live in the Surrey Hills, so I've got it's not exactly the Alps, but I've got to say 15% gradient hills at maybe 100 meters of vert, or 120 maybe. So you're kind of doing lots of running around, lots of reps on that, just sort of hilly 1 to 2 hours a day. I did in quite a bit of time, a reasonable number of sessions on the turbo, just in the shed, because it's just so hot. And so kind of doing that, probably a bit of a token effort, but I did some runs in like hoodies and hats and stuff to try and sort of make it a bit warmer. But yeah, nothing. Yeah, I've kind of been running. Sort of had because last year I ran Lakeland 100, so I've done quite a lot of hill training for that, and so had a reasonable amount of hills in the legs. But yeah, probably not massive amounts. Probably ran, how much did I run this year? I ran 1,000 miles in the first half of the year. So what, 40 miles? What's that? Yeah, 40 miles a week, maybe, but quite hilly. So yeah. Reasonable chunk of climbing.
Quality over quantity there.
Yeah, I just time. It's sort of 40 miles for me is about 8 hours a week. So kind of maybe run an hour a day with 1-2 hour run each week or something like that. So I'm not somebody who's, I don't have the time. It's not part of my training thing to do the 4, 5, 6 hour runs. And I've kind of got, from having done quite a few hundreds, I know I've got the stamina. So it's kind of, don't necessarily feel the need to go out and run for 5 hours training runs and all that kind of stuff. But plus I can't really. So
I think that's probably is the reason why you haven't been injured in the last seven odd years.
Yeah.
there's a lot to be said for lower mileage, because there's a couple of schools of thought in there that you can have lower mileage and stay pretty injury proof and get through training and then get to racing that way.
Yeah.
Or there's the guys high mileage, and you will get quicker doing high mileage, but you also have the chance of getting injured. So yeah, I think that approach is the sensible approach, isn't it? And I know a lot of coaches now are leaning more towards the because it's the lower mileage, because it's still a bit of an unknown, isn't it? Ultra running, it's a niche of running that's a niche of a niche, really, isn't it? It's not really popular running, and when you talk to people about ultra running, they haven't really got a clue. The classic, like, I won't even drive that far, and etc. And then you tell them that you've done a race like Western States, and it's like, what is it? I've never heard of it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, it seems to work for me, the lower mileage. And it's something I do. It's not like I'm a professional or anything. I do it as something for an enjoyment. If I go out for an hour's run, I really enjoy that. It gives me sort of a bit of time out and about, and about an hour's usually about right. So do that. Just go for a run before work, and it sort of wakes me up a bit and gets me going. So.
Yes, good approach. What about you touched on your preparation? Did you have any specific heat preparation? Because obviously it's known as being a hot race. Did you said about doing the turbo? Did you do any sauna or anything like that?
No, I'd say having done because I did a bit of cycling and I've got a rowing machine and stuff like that. So, but no, didn't do any sauna or anything like that. But just kind of, I've done some hot races in the past. Like I did North Downs Way 100 in 2020, and that got up to 34, and that was pretty warm. I was okay with that. So I didn't really do. And actually, I probably didn't find the heat too bad actually of the Western States. I think because I was so slow that I was still in the high country when it got hot. So that if you're an elite, you're down in the canyons at midday, whereas I was still at Robinson's Flat at 7,000 feet at midday. So it was kind of, it's quite a different race. I think if you're at the sharp end. Although I've got it in the next one.
What's that?
Does that say there?
What's that first? I was just going to say, sorry, what's that first section like? Is that notorious for being quite tricky terrain across that first section?
Yeah, I'd say, the first 30 miles, it's got the first pitch straight up, if it's 800 meters in 3-4 miles. So it took me about an hour, and it's one of those ones. I knew if I went off too fast, it would ruin my race. So I just sort of headed up, chatting to people, taking it all in, looking at the view, just sort of, and then I was probably about 20th from last at that point, 30th from last. And then you come over, and then it was single track, but it was almost a bit like you're in a big long conga line with 50, 100, 200 people in front of you. And I just sort of was like, well, if I'm forced to slow down, then that's probably not a bad thing. And so I was kind of picked off as people stopped to go to the bathroom or whatever. Then I sort of picked up a place here, place there, and just sort of followed the line, and then got to the first aid station about 270th or something, and then it started to open up. And it wasn't hugely technical. It wasn't like particularly technical, but it's just kind of like you've got like bit of streams and stuff you had to sort of go up, and it wasn't particularly well-defined trail. And then once you got to 10 miles, started to open up, and then it was still quite undulating and still very high at that point, because you're sort of about 8,000 feet, and it was quite. And then I think 25 miles, then there's a climb up from Duncan's Canyon, which started to get really hot at that point, and that was pretty tough going. But I think once you got the first 30 out of the way, then everyone sort of says it starts to ease off. So and then it's like 30. Go on, sir.
I was going to say, do you have any trouble with the altitude?
Not particularly. I think I remember like getting into staying in my hotel, and I was like, blimey, this is sort of like 7,000 feet, and my heart rate was up quite a lot. And but I just took it really easy on that first, because I sort of thought, well, it's at altitude for only the first sort of 30, 35 miles, so I don't want to sort of use everything up then in that first 30, because I know there's sort of still 20 plus hours potentially to go after that first 30. So I just wanted to sort of just take it easy, keep my pace sensible. That's kind of got through it.
Down as you can.
Yeah.
So when you imagine going to the race and seeing the race, and you've seen all the pictures and videos, did it live up to your expectations? Was it how you imagined the race was gonna how it was gonna be?
Not sure. I think it like particularly the start was much smaller. It was sort of it's a really really small race in terms of like the starting environment and that kind of stuff, because actually it's probably not actually in terms of number of runners and people at start, it's not that different to say Centurion race or something like that, where you've got maybe 350, 400 runners. You've got through, and it's like a small town as well. There's almost like 2 or 3 streets, and so everyone's there, and it's just really quite small, as opposed to like, I don't know if you've ever been to like UTMB, where it's just absolutely mental with like tens of thousands of people and like just huge. Whereas it's really sort of, you're part of something that like a really small thing, and like you're kind of like, well, I don't know, you're getting your race kit and there's whatever, I don't know, like I was out, I went for a recce on the Thursday, oh not recce, but it was like, there was meant to be that walk up to the top, the peak, and do the ceremony, and then I think it got cancelled, but we did the walk with a couple of Brits, and I was at the top, and Camille Heron's there, and she's having a chat, and then it's like, oh wow, it's bad to like just see people in the cafes or whatever, and it's like you don't I don't know all the people, and I'm not, but you just know that they're like elite runners who are there just buying coffee or whatever, and like it's kind of mad, really. So
I know I was with the guy that I was filming with, Dan Davids, I'll get his name wrong, Dan anyway. He'd only sort of been into ultra running for a couple of years, but he was like an absolute fanboy. He knew absolutely every single runner that came through.
Yeah.
He knew who they were straight away. Whereas I was like, I'd recognise the big names and stuff, but
yeah,
he'd done his homework and he knew absolutely everybody. And the day after, he was telling me all these people he'd seen, like walking around the track and everything on the next day. And I was like, oh, I wish you'd told me. I would have gone and had a chat with them, and didn't realise, because I knew who they were by name, but couldn't recognise them actually in the flesh.
Yeah.
And it's we were saying that, these guys are they're like rock stars to us, aren't they? It's like when you know if they runner, you view them as like being a bit of a rock star, but the next day, who people don't know who anyone is, that Adam Peterman will go home and people won't know that he's won Western States, or probably care that he's won Western States, but in that little bubble of Western States, in that race and in the ultra running world, people love it, don't they? Absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, it's cool. Yeah, no, that's I'd say that. Yeah, and the race is quite small, but yeah, it's really good. It's just really good scenery, and just sort of chatting to people and just sort of making a way across California. It's quite surreal, as you like suddenly realizing you're in this race and you're sort of getting to like all the names that you recognize or you've seen on YouTube videos, and just sort of working your way through it, and sort of it's quite mad, really. So.
Quite surreal. I'd not even realised. So when I got to the place and was assigned the job I was doing, filming people from the last checkpoint, Rowbury Point, down to back, and I was like, what? We're running all the way from the last checkpoint, all the way, because in my head I just assumed that it's like sort of 10 miles away or something on the route. And they were like, oh no, it's only like 0.7 miles or something from the end of the race, and this big checkpoint there.
Yeah.
And it's like full of people. I'm like, in my head, I was thinking, why would you have a checkpoint that like so close to the end? But what was your view of the on course support that you got from people in the volunteers and everything?
Yeah, no, it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like, you're just sort of coming in, and like was quite busy in the early stages, sort of maybe 300 people coming through in not very much time. But yeah, it's just spot on. You got people, you sort of almost get somebody coming in who sort of, you come in, like particularly some of the latest aid stations where you've got the field's pretty spread out, and you'll have someone coming in to sort of check up on you and sort of they'll check you through the thing, and it's brilliant. It's really good. So it's interesting having done this in concert.
No, you carry on.
No, I was going to say, having done the Centurion races, because I think James has tried to sort of emulate that as much as possible, and there is definitely a very similar feel. Like there's like an extra layer on top because they've got that many more people doing it. But it's that same sort of like, you're coming in, you've got all the different foods and drinks, and it's really good. And then it's just sort of, it's just a bit big. Like every age, like, I guess it's the thing where you might have, say, on on some of the races you'll have like a big aid station, and then you'll have a couple which are like sort of just a picnic table and some bottles or some water or whatever. Whereas every aid station was just like a massive, like a big, would be like a big, like on say Lakeland 100 or something. You got a big aid station, like everything, every rate, everyone was like that. It's kind of like it's quite, and everything was a bit different, and they're all really close together. So it's like got like 20 aid stations in 100, less than 100. Well, first year quite spread out, but once you're going through, it's almost like there's like 62, 67, 70, 74, 78, 82. You're almost like don't really need to, you don't really need that much stuff, because if you don't, you can miss an aid station, there'll be another one in 3 miles or whatever. It's pretty good in that respect.
That's amazing. And they're all like party places as well, aren't they? I couldn't quite get over that. With like, I mean, they were just sort of revving up when we were at Roby Point, but I just had a bit of a moment where it was starting to go. Well, the sun was starting to go down. They've got like fairy lights twinkling. There was all guys stood around with the belt buckles and everything, chatting. And then they got like loud music playing. It was like Red Hot Chili Peppers. Yeah. And I was like, I just had a little moment. I was like, I'm in California. I'm at Western States. The weather is perfect, and there's Red Hot Chili Peppers, like a Californian band playing in the background. And I was like, yeah, this is why people love it so much, that atmosphere. Yeah. And then the people in like lining the streets, like, I don't know what it was like when you came through, but in the evening, it was, I couldn't quite get over the fact that people just stay up all night outside the houses, just sit right in front of the house, drinking beer, got the deck chairs out and everything, and like playing music and everything, and just stay there all night, like as we were going backwards and forwards filming, trying to get everybody to dance on the. I was telling everybody that they were live on YouTube, then they had to dance to get on YouTube. I've not looked back at it, but I can't imagine that much of it actually went on the live stream. But it was just quite funny to tell people that they were live on YouTube and they had to dance.
Yeah, and I'm coming through there. That was a bit, because I don't know, I wasn't sure whether it was busy because there was a lot of people coming through, and I was. But yeah, it was absolutely packed. Loads of people like from Roby Point in, where there was just loads of people just like out on their front doorsteps and getting offered beers and all that stuff. I wasn't sure if people had gone to bed and started to come out for the last few, or whether it was like that all the way through. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like it's just really nice.
It was I think there was only like one. There was a bit of a lull, sort of, because we did 2 shifts, so we did from 6 p.m. through till midnight, which ended up being like more like 1:45, and then we were back on shift at 5 o'clock till the finish, and it slowed down a bit, and the party atmosphere died down a little bit around midnight, but it was back in full swing when we came back at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So maybe like the locals just had a bit of a break. Waited for all the top 10 finishers to come through, and then had a bit of a sniff, and then got back up again to party, maybe.
Yeah, no, I was certainly going for it when I was coming through. It was just amazing. Like, you sort of expected a few people because you're coming to the finish, but it's like every street and like just people cheering you on. I've not had that before. So.
No, I got quite carried away with the finish, because I'd like heard about golden hour and everything, and people coming in those last few hours and stuff, and they were saying how people just come just to spectate just for that period of time. They're like, people, not as many people watch the finishes coming as many as the people that come just to see golden hour and everything. Yeah. And the atmosphere was just like unbelievable, and I found myself getting like revved up myself and like trying to whip the crowd up as it was running around the track, and you've got everybody all lining the side of the track and just like giving them the arm to get the crowd going. And it was a bit of a it's an amazing experience. I mean, I haven't done the race, but straight away I was just like, I've got to come back. If I don't come back and race, do the race, I'm going to come back and volunteer if I can. Yeah. If the family will let me leave.
Yeah, it's quite a trek, but it's brilliant though. I can't really explain it though. It's like, it's not necessarily that much, but it's just, I don't know. It's just something about it, like the fact that it's lovely where you're out in the warm and everyone's just out all night, and it's such a big deal to the place as well.
That's the thing. It means so much to to everybody there. I know I had a bit of a break before I went on shift at 6 o'clock. I was there early, so I had a bit of time to sort of mill around and help people get set up, but not really officially helping, just going like offering a hand to somebody and move a few chairs and things like that, or a bit of ice. And I'd got my phone with me, so I thought, oh, while I'm here, I'm going to just see if I can try and do a few bits and bobs of video clips of chatting to people. And I asked people, as many people as I could, like, and if there was anybody sort of sat down not doing anything that looked like they were important, I went and sat with them and just asked them what Western States meant to them. And the responses I got were amazing. Like, to think that race means so much to so many people involved with it. You can see why so many people volunteer for the race every year, when it means it's like a national treasure to them, especially like the local. I think one of the first guys I spoke to was like the basketball coach, and had got his team was there to help with the setup. And they're like, only young lads, sort of like 14, 15, something like that, but they were absolutely wringing with sweat, moving all these chairs and helping set up the stands and everything. And then later on, they were like drinking cans of pop, shotgunning them, where you like punch a hole in it and shotgunning a can of pop, and the basketball teacher's there going, how do you know how to do that? Are you sure it's only like fizzy drinks you've been doing? And they were laughing. And then someone brought them pizza, and I just thought it's like the perfect like American thing that you see on TV in a school of like kids, basketball players with their coach, drinking fizzy drinks and eating pizza. It just seemed like a bit of a magical experience for everybody that got involved with it. So that was something that sort of taken me back. I didn't think people would be. I thought it'd be like a race. I've volunteered for races over here, and it's been like, everyone is like a bit of a family and gets involved. But it seems like Western States is kind of like on another level for people. It just seems to be this thing that people are obsessed with, and they'll do anything to get involved with the race.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. And like, okay. Because I met, as I was coming into Forest Hill, I met a guy who lived in. It was really funny. I was just this guy, because I sort of had it in my watch that I knew how far it was to Forest Hill, and I said to this chap, I've got 2 miles to go to the aid station nearly there, and he just laughed at me and he goes, yeah, I know. And I was like, oh right, okay, what's fair enough. But then he said, look, he pointed to his bib, and it was Dave from Forest Hill. I was like, so you know it then? He's like, just a bit. And then I chatted to him, and then his pacer turned up, and they were just chatting away and all about their friends doing the race and who was doing what and who was pacing and who was at which aid station and all their sort of crew and stuff. And you just sort of get an idea of what it's about, and like it's a big deal. And and that was the thing for him. He got in 6th or 7th time. He lived on the course. He's got to go through the same lottery as everyone else, and
same process as everybody else. Yeah, it's fair, definitely fair. Yeah. So with you being away from home, how was your family? We talked about how you were not in trouble, but you had to buy a present for your daughter.
As an added fun, my daughter got COVID on the Sunday, so it was her birthday. I was away. She was due to go out for dinner, and then she came down with COVID. And then my wife got it on the Thursday, and then I got it the following Sunday. So I've been that's been quite interesting return. So it's not been, it's been relatively mild, but still you kind of can't really go out and do anything, and you're sort of a bit under the weather. So that's been like so that we sort of came out of the various people getting COVID last. So that was the 10 days that we had. So first 10 days after we got back. So they're kind of glad that I enjoyed it, but they're not as interested in it. So that's fine. Still have my own interest. We got away with it.
You have to rebuild your husband and dad points for the next time you go away. Actually, you've got another race coming up, haven't you?
Yeah, I got UTMB at the end, which is a double roll. So I was meant to do that in 2020 and then 21, and now I've got it placed for. That's at the end of next month. So so starting to train for that one, get the sticks out of the cupboard. I'm back up, hopefully recovered fully from COVID now. So then and Western States, so my legs are fine, lungs are coming back. So got a bit of altitude training in them, and so hopefully not lost it all through COVID. But
ready to go. I know the last interview I did with somebody who was doing the double was Beth Pascal. So last year after she'd won, States, I managed to get her on, and it was that the period between between she'd done Western States and when she was going to do UTMB, and I was convinced that she was gonna do the double and win both, but she DNF'd, didn't she, on UTMB?
No, I was just looking at that because I was thinking I probably had a lot more experience in Western States because I was out there probably about 10 hours longer than she was, I think. So.
You got your money's worth.
Absolutely. I didn't realise you got a T-shirt if you're in gold now. Otherwise, I might have spun my wheels slightly a bit more for the last few miles. So. No, I didn't want to cut it fine, so I think 28, 26, I think. So yeah, I didn't want to cut it too far. I just wanted to enjoy it. Wanted to make sure I finished.
I can't what the pressure's like for coming in knowing that you're chasing that cut off, and there was the lady that came in. She missed the cut off, didn't she? And she came in like a minute or something after sort of clock ticking past 30, but they let her through. But she had a really interesting story, didn't she? Did you hear about her?
No, I didn't really catch that. So
I think I don't know whether they knew this backstory. I don't know, but apparently she'd been suffering with cancer, and that she was still, I don't know what stage she's at, but she was living with cancer, and this was the thing that she was doing that she wanted to do, and I might have. So don't quote me on it, but it's an amazing story, and whether that was one of the reasons why they let her finish and then interviewed her afterwards, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think if you get to a certain point, they'll let you. It's almost like if you're by a certain point by a certain time, I think they let you through. And there was a guy who finished about half an hour later, I think. And there was something, I think he'd won it in 1979 or something, 1980 or something. So yeah, there were two finishers after 30 hours. So you get a nice bottle opener.
The perks.
Yeah, I know somebody who finished. Yeah, I know somebody. I think 2019, she finished about 5 minutes after the cutoff, and so she's happy enough. She'd finished the course, and she got they give you a finisher's like a bottle opener while you're waiting for your buckle. But obviously, if you miss the 30 hours, you don't get the buckle, but you get they give you the bottle opener for finishing.
Fair enough. Yeah, amazing race. Yeah, and you've got UTMB to look forward to now.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do specifically for UTMB then between now and then? Is there anything that you want to really work on?
I think it's just getting taking the stick, finding hills that I've got a couple of hills which are pretty decent gradient, and just getting going with the sticks really. So I think it's that sort of. That's a bit, they're very different. Okay, they're similar races but quite different. I think UTMB is a lot slower average pace, but there's some real grinding long climbs where you've got the sticks out and a lot more technical in places. So I think it's just kind of getting that. Yeah, it's probably not going to be hugely different, but just sort of maybe a session or two each week with sort of doing 10 reps of 100-meter hill with the poles or whatever, sort of 15-20% gradient type stuff. So that's a bit sort of that's because I dropped out of. I managed to get 100k into UTMB in 2019. I just remember some of the climbs where you just got really quite technical and not technical, but just almost like you're climbing over big rock, like big boulders and stuff to get up places. So it's just whereas I'd say some of Western States is almost large chunks of it's very similar to North Downs Way in terms of the sort of terrain and technical sort of that sort of wooded single track and stuff like that. You kind of maybe reasonably rough, but which some parts of the North Downs Way are pretty just not necessarily super technical. It's just full of rocks and just badly maintained or sort of just a bit rough. So whereas I think UTMB is a lot more just some of the stuff's quite big big rocks to climb over and stuff. So, but we'll see what happens.
Either way, it's going to be a grind, isn't it? So, but
yeah, I'll be using instead of 20 something hours, it's going to be 40 something hours. So it's 2 nights rather than 1. So.
Yeah, well, that's what you pay your money for, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of
Have you got anything that you've got lined up for the future, or have you got any like other? You're ticking off the big bucket list races, aren't you? At the moment?
Got them both in a year. I don't know. We'll see. I did. I kind of had a few races which I've been trying to get to, because I did Lonnas as well, which is that was last year, which is one I've been up to. I DNF'd in 2017, then DNS'd in 2019, so finally got in 2021. So that was quite a big one. So I think next year might be a quiet year, I think, and then have a think about what I do next. I think. Yeah, I'd like to do Grand Union Canal race at some point. I've done Kennet and Avon, and I think that the 150 miles or 145 on the flats, quite a different challenge, which I just about finished that. I've just about finished Kennet and Avon, so I'd like to do that maybe at some point. Not sure I'm quite fast enough for Spartathlon, but that'll be maybe the other one that's probably of the bucket list ones that I'd like to do at some point. But
that's got a bit of a quite harsh cut-off, hasn't it? The Spartathlon.
Yeah,
it's quite a tricky one you got to be really on it to finish that.
Yeah, because I've done 100 miles in 1940, so I'd be left with another 50 in 16 hours to get that done. So I could do it in theory, but still, it's Thames Path is slightly different to the mountains of Greece. But we'll see what happens, really.
The heat and the fog and the smog.
Yeah, exactly. But we'll see. I think I'll probably might be a quiet. Well, it will be a quiet year. Having blown my budget on 2 massive races this year. So
yeah, I'm sure the family will probably appreciate you being around more as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I've had a pretty good run of it the last couple of years. So because last year was Lakeland 100, which ends up being quite a trek from London, because you've got to go up and it's quite hard because I finished that at 5 a.m. on the Sunday. I got the train straight home, and then I was a bit of a misery on the Sunday evening, and I got negative points for coming home early because I was a miserable sod. So yeah.
Did you sort of struggle with speaking of being miserable? Did you struggle with jet lag or anything coming back?
No, I was absolutely fine. Kind of. I got slept on the plane. Yeah, I was back working on the Wednesday. Yeah, no problem. I don't really get jet lag, so I was kind of fine. And then when I was starting to feel, and then COVID hit. So when I was probably feeling, I was like, I still sort of, I was like, I sort of felt all right, and I was like, I've pretty much recovered, and then I was like, I'm not really recovering, and like this seems to be going the other way, and I was like, oh, maybe I've got COVID. It's like, I've got COVID.
Yeah. So I think if there's ever a perfect opportunity for your immune system to be at its lowest and be susceptible to catching a bug, that's it, isn't it? When you've done 100 mile on the other side of the world and then travelled back, you're definitely going to be in line for something, aren't you?
Yeah, no. So I kind of figured I'd get it. I was just glad it wasn't sort of me picking it up on the plane and bringing it home to everyone else. It was, because I think that would have been a disaster. Whereas this way, it was like, it's not my fault. So
doing the nail in the coffin, wasn't it? Bringing COVID back.
Yeah, exactly. So, but no, we'll see what happens with races and stuff. I think I've got pretty happy with what I've got so far. I like to do a track race at some point, actually, because I did the Phoenix 24, as in Phoenix running, not Phoenix, Arizona, but I'd signed up to do the 24 in March, and then pulled out after 12 hours because I kind of had Western States coming up, and I wasn't necessarily exactly where I wanted to be. So I'd like to do a full 24 hours on the track rather than dropping it halfway. That's probably about semi bucket list thing to actually spend 24 hours on the track. So I've done a half for 12. So half for 24. So
how did you find that? Because I do like running on a track, but I've never run for any more than sort of like an hour on a track. So the idea of, I don't know whether the idea appeals to me or not. I do like the idea of it, of trying, because you can obviously run faster than you would do normally.
Yeah, I quite liked it. It's quite sociable. a lot of time for the Phoenix races. I know quite a few people there. It's all nice food and drink and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I found it in some ways easier. Whereas I'd probably say if you're doing like 3-mile laps, 3-mile loops or something like that, I find horrific because you're almost like sort of like, oh, here we go again. Whereas actually on a track, because it's almost like consistent, you don't ever feel like, because there's no sort of like obvious start and end.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like you're sort of like, it didn't feel like you were like, oh, it's another lap, because it's just like,
just
almost, yeah, it just isn't, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, but with that one, because I hardly done any, because all my training had been hills and stuff like that, my feet and stuff weren't used to running that long on the flat, so I was also a bit nervous about like something going bang with sort of 3 months to go. I thought that's what I called it 12 hours, but with a bit more specific training, it'd be interesting to see what, because you can sort of run some quite interesting times as well if you've got the right conditions and stuff. So
yeah, the wise decision to pull out. You wouldn't want to have scuppered your chances of finishing Western States, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's see.
Have you got anything else that we can talk about? We about there?
Yeah, no, if we have my Western States stuff. But yeah, no, I think actually one bit of advice that I meant to pass on, but because I ran without a crew or a pacer for Western States, which I think I'm probably like one of about 10 people who did that. And so from a selfish perspective, I don't think it made a huge amount of difference. I think it would have probably been nice to have company from Forest Hill to the river, because that gets a bit dull when you're in the dark. But I think the real reason to get a pacer is, as you say, about locals wanting to be involved. I think if you're flying over and you get a chance to involve somebody local in the race, and because I think people love doing pacing, and so if you get the chance, so not necessarily from a sort of, do I need a pacer because I need, just like, well, I've run loads of races on my own. I don't need someone to pace me, and sort of slightly nervous about, you sort of get stuck for 38 with miles with somebody who's you don't get on with. Could be a bit of could ruin the race. So that was a bit. But no, I'd say if you can, I'd get a pacer and somebody local, and I think it gives them a chance, because they get to experience it in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. So it kind of gives maybe giving something back a bit to the race, rather than sort of be thinking that somebody's necessarily doing you a favour and you're going someone out of the way. Actually, potentially you're giving somebody the chance to kind of get experience running over No Hands Bridge or whatever, or through all those different things. It's pretty cool.
Right, I've not thought of it from that perspective before. I'd always thought of that, because there's obviously that thing on the website for like where you can sort of request the pacer, isn't there, that sort of thing. And I kind of viewed it like that you were sort of, you're asking a big favour of somebody locally to do that for you. But yeah, you're right, actually, when you think about it that way, that there's probably people that are desperate to be asked because they know that they probably either know the route or they really want to do the route, and you'd be doing them a favour more than yourself.
Yeah. So it was kind of a bit late when I realised that, but then I think there are some people who turn up and just pace people there. They're like, oh, pick me, kind of thing, and then they'd all gone because I was so slow. They'd all gone by the time I got there. So they said, oh, we did have some paces earlier, but no, they're all gone. So I was like, okay. So then I headed off into Forest Hill on the dark on my own, which is fine. Of course, I've done quite a few night sections. But yeah, that'd be the one bit of advice I'd say, is get a pacer, not necessarily for yourself, but if you're undecided, then yeah, get one. Crew, you really don't need a crew, but then people do quite like crewing and stuff as well. And like some of the locals do like to sort of help out as well. But yeah, you got every hour there's like all the food and drink you could imagine. So you wouldn't necessarily, like, not having a crew, I don't think makes a massive difference, but having a pacer, I think would be quite cool. It's probably quite nice to sort of give people, get more people, and sort of know more about the race and sort of have that local involvement. I think it's quite cool.
Brilliant. I appreciate the advice. So for anyone that's thinking, or anyone who's in the race next year, or they're going to think about trying to get into the race, that's a nice bit of advice, especially coming from not a local or somebody in the US going over, somebody going over. It can be a bit of a daunting thing going to a race abroad on your own. So some good advice then. And they're all super friendly, aren't they? That's the thing about Americans, especially it seemed like Californians just seem to be super friendly and willing to help out. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, and there's a lot of people, who've had a lot of history of the race as well, like people who've done it in like, yeah, and I sort of went to all like the ceremonies and stuff, and like the race briefings and all that kind of stuff, and you're hearing about the history and like, yeah, it's just really nice, and you sort of know that it is there's a lot of heritage to the race, which you don't get with maybe other ones. So
you got the full experience of it.
Yeah, because I got there Wednesday evening, and it all sort of started Thursday morning, and so yeah, got the full Western States. And the other thing as well is, if you're doing it, is be prepared to hang around at the end, because I think pretty much everyone stayed for the medal ceremony, the buckles being given out and stuff. There was hardly anyone who didn't. So that's, yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. So well, not necessarily want to sit in a tent for 3 hours when you finished until when the buckles are ready, but that's cool. It's nice to be around that. So.
Well, I know even I was listening to a few people, some of the pros that were interviewed like over the last week about their experience, and a lot of them were talking about the fact that they were like 2 or 3 hours in the medical tent even after they'd finished. They were, you'd think, oh, even for like the guy that won, like Adam Peterman, he was like, I won this race, but I still had to go to the medical tent to give the sample. And the first sample that he was trying to give for drug testing, he actually passed out and fell over and dropped his sample. So he had to wait another like hour for him to get enough fluid in it to be able to give the sample. And you don't really think about that, do you? You think about like the pros like get whisked away in a car and they go and sleep it off and then come back for golden hour. But actually, there's no comfort in just because you've won. There's no comfort for you. You just have to hang around with the rest of everyone and suffer.
Yeah, no, it's nice there as well. Though, so it's a big, get there at the end, and you see everyone there, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, big community. Love it. Cool. Right, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us and giving that Englishman's perspective to the Western State. I really appreciate you sharing a bit of your knowledge and experience, and hopefully some people will have gained some insights from it for their adventures in the future.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's been good to get the memories back.
Yeah, and have a good chat about it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thanks, Dave. Appreciate you coming on.
All right, no worries. Cheers.
Bye.